And that was SOS.
And that was Sly Elsewhere.
And this is a special Halloween edition of
The Apocalypse Bros. This story is brought to you from the prompts of Bobby Boogaloo. The story title is called Not All Good in the Hood. The year is 2050. The world is different. It's been 30 years since the coronavirus has changed what we viewed as normal. Aberrations have been occurring more often since 2020, and more cities have been abandoned due to various problems, such as poisoned water supplies, soil becoming unusually infertile, untempted hostile takeovers, and by hostile I mean violently hostile, and of course, the roamers. Now, it shouldn't be surprising that the one state that has been declared a safe zone is Texas. The leaders saw what was occurring early on, secured the borders and any incoming food in order to preserve what they could as best as they could. Now, unfortunately, no setup is perfect and no planning is flawless. Still, Texas has held out better than the rest of the U.S. I think the biggest oversight they made was to secure from the outside and not look at what was already going on inside. Killeen, Texas, or as most people think of it, Fort Hood. One of the largest military bases in all of the U.S., housing over 30,000 people on more than 214,000 acres of land. Thought of as one of the most secure places on Earth. I guess it always is what you least expect that gets you in the end, isn't it? Colin Crawley was the head supervisor over Project Roamers Are People Too, commonly referred to as RAPT. You may already have guessed what this project was meant to be for, seeing if roamers, who used to be soldiers, were still human, and could the roamer DNA be reversed? Or at least that's what the public was to believe. Crawley was the general over this project and was tasked with oversight on all matters. He was to report to his supervisors what had been witnessed with testing and the conclusions they had come to. Well, not everything was true as it had reported to be. General Crawley, sir, Professor Higgins said as he approached, there's been, well, a development. What development? Crawley demanded. I think you'll want to see for yourself. They descended down about 20 floors into the underground lab. You see, Higgins started, as we were running our nightly vital readings before putting them under sedation for the night, we noticed something strange in Subject Delta 6's vitals. Higgins handed the chart over to Crawley. This can't be right, Crawley started. This roamer is showing brain activity, Higgins interrupted. Now, we have seen activity before, but not in any sustained form. Generally, we've discovered it's been linked to several attempted different treatments we've given to them. But we haven't given Delta 6 anything in the past week. As one of our first, we've pretty much given up anything working at this point. Okay, so what do you attribute this to? Crawley asked in a less than enthused manner. I attribute it to life. I believe it has somehow become human, at least in part. Again, Higgins replied. Now this is a small step, but over time, terminate it, Crawley interjected. But sir, I said terminate it. No more questions. You have one job and that's obeying my orders. If anything, Delta 6 is just going to get in the way of actual progress. If they become human, then how do we make them into super soldiers? No, he must be terminated. Yes, sir, Higgins said reluctantly. Crawley walked away and left Higgins and the skeleton lab crew to take care of the subject. Higgins walked solemnly over to Delta 6. Sorry, old friend, Higgins muttered to the subject. I thought this would change his mind, but it looks like we have to do it the hard way. Higgins entered the protocol he labeled as Protocol 10. Suddenly, red lights buzzed throughout the entire lab. Crawley, who was just at the top, gasped with horror. The only time these lights were supposed to go off were in case of emergency, as in a world-ending emergency. All of the capsules containing the liquid suspended creatures were open. Thousands of bodies, a few dead but most alive, sloshed on the floor. They slowly began rising, looking confused even for roamers, and started towards the lab techs left in the area. Delta 6 was unique, though. He stood, scanned the area as if looking for an old friend, then proceeded to Higgins. Higgins stood confidently and began giving orders to Delta 6. Suddenly, all roamers stopped and gathered around Delta 6, as if they were acknowledging his leadership. They all headed towards the remaining lift. To the top floor, Higgins yelled. Looking momentarily confused, Delta 6 stood there and then, seeming to understand, pressed main floor. Higgins silenced the alarms and rated to Crawley that it was a false alarm. Crawley never saw it coming. Soon, the roamers were upon the entire base, moving like well-trained soldiers that had been practicing this battle plan for months. And, I suppose, it's because they have. Higgins had been pushing battle plans into their DNA for months. The brain activity meant to be seen as human consciousness was much more akin to robot CPU. All it took was one subject to grab a hold of the data, and the hive mind was born. Once they took over Fort Hood, Texas did not stand a chance. As Higgins always says, everyone should have been fine, but poor leadership has doomed them all.